Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. And this is Continental Confidential Live number 23. And my guest today is my good friend, Joe James. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to see your face. This is awesome.
Well, it's really good to see you too. I miss seeing you. That's for
And
sure.
it's so cool to see the Continental background too. I love the Continental. I've always have such a great time on that stage, and seeing you in the back there is always a joy. We'll get there again.
Well, thank you. And yes, we will get there again. Absolutely. It's a matter of time. And we're looking hopefully at fall 2021. We'll see, but the way that
Yeah.
the vaccines are rolling out now, it looks that it's at least possible.
Yeah, definitely. It looks promising. And I'm super hopeful, and I'm glad vaccines are rolling out and people are able to get them. And yeah, hopefully by fall, you know, we're we're back to somewhat normal and rocking and rolling
Right.
and
We're
getting
all
onto this continental stage. That's all I care about.
hoping. So well, first of all, let me preface this by saying you have an incredibly interesting life. You've done a lot of things, you've been a lot of places. You know, and I want to start with please tell us about your first gig.
My first gig, is that like a paying one or just a first gig on the stage?
How about both?
Okay, cool. So the first one I would have to say would be a church gig, because I started playing in the church at the age of 13, 14, and I was playing drums for the church. Not a lot of people know, because I don't go around telling everyone like, oh, I could play a bunch of instruments, but I played bass, drums, guitar, and keyboard. And so bass and drums were my first instruments. So I was playing drums at the age of uh, 14 at church, at 13, 14 at church. So that was my first gig in front of an audience. It didn't pay, but I think they were trying to take advantage of me because I was a little kid and I didn't have a manager. That was it. Those darn church folks. So, but so I that was the first gig I can remember, and it was terrifying getting up in front of like a congregation and a crowd of people and everyone looking at you, and you're like, oh my god, don't screw this up. But I did fine, and that was the first one for me. I think the first paying gig um, was at a place called Whiskey A Go Go on Hollywood Boulevard, um, and it was a ticketed thing, and we sold tickets, and the venue kind of screwed us over again. Needed a manager, but I did make a little bit of money, enough to buy like a hot dog and a soda or something afterwards. But hey, it was the first paying gig. But yeah, that was the first one.
What kind of music were you playing?
Um, I was playing blues and soul and stuff like that. I've always uh that's always been my go-to. I hit a when I was a teenager, being super rebellious and wanting to just rock and roll. I had like a metal stage, and from time to time I'll still go back there if I'm exercising or something. I was like rock and roll. Uh, but for the most part, I've always loved oldies and Motown, and my that was my I'm a mama's boy, and she was always playing that type of music. My dad was the rock and roller. My mom was is always listening to Motown, soul, and like blues and funk and stuff like that. So I was that's that's home for me. So it was, yeah, that first gig was I was playing like blues, soul music.
And what were or who were your first influences?
Um, I'd have to say my dad. Like my dad is a bass player, a bassist, and that was my first instrument. So I was influenced by him playing with all these bands and watching them rehearse, and seeing all these bass guitars lying around. So I would have to say he was the first influence because I wanted to be like him. So I learned how to play bass at the age of 8, which was funny seeing an 8-year-old with a bass. I was like,
Right.
I could hardly even play the thing. But then I would have to say the Beatles because the Beatles were a huge influence. And they were always being played around our house. My dad's a huge Beatles fan. My mom's a huge Beatles fan. So we were always watching the Beatles anthology and listening to all their records. And so those were my two like first main influences.
And who would you say are your influences today?
Um, it's interesting because it changes as opposed to being it just being music. It starts to, as a musician and a songwriter, it starts to, you pull influence from other things, not just artists, because I think
Right.
as you're growing as a musician and a songwriter at the very beginning stages, you're taking in your those little pieces from all those bands and artists, and
Mhm.
those are your big influences. But then when you start writing, you already have those subconsciously in the back of your mind, so you start looking for other things. Like for me, it's things like my wife, like our relationship, our love. And in the city of Austin, for me, just the city is a huge influence. And I find myself writing things about certain sections or areas of the city, or certain places or people or communities that I've come in contact with.
Right.
And so I'll start to pull from those things as influences for my songwriting and for performance.
Well, I think that's great because it certainly gives you a more well-rounded uh, presentation, if you will.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure, absolutely.
and while we're on the subject of songwriting, what is your process for songwriting?
Um, it varies. So it's so many things. Usually, it starts off um, on the guitar or just a melody going through my head. Because the guitar was my first instrument I started writing with. So
Uh-huh.
bass and drums were the first instruments, but guitar, I found myself being extremely creative with it, and able to pick up on these melodies and stuff from certain chord structures that I'd be playing. So it usually starts with guitar and vocal and like a vocal melody, but it comes in so many different ways. It feels like as I've gotten older and progressed as a songwriter, um, I find it like pulling in these inspirations and stuff in certain in writing songs in different ways. 'Cause now I'll start on the piano,
Uh-huh.
or I'll just have some words that I'll jot down, or someone will say something um, that's inspiring, and I'm like, oh man! So I'll write it down in my phone, and then I'll build a song off of that, like little phrase or little saying. So
Right.
it's so many different ways for me, which keeps it so fun and interesting, and just keeps me wanting to do it, and keeps me going as a songwriter. The fact that I could pull from a bunch of different things as opposed to just having this specific way of songwriting.
Right.
um it's so many ways. It's a melody in my head, it's something someone said, it's a guitar riff, it's a piano thing, it's my bassist and drummer are playing, and I'm like, ooh, there's something there, like. So
Uh-huh.
it's so many different avenues, thankfully, because it didn't start off that way. It started off very simple, of course, but as you grow as an artist and as a songwriter, yeah, you start to find it in all different things. It probably could be found in the conversation we'll have, now,
Right.
which is cool, and it's so great.
Interestingly enough, Tomar Williams of Tomar and the FCs,
My dude, I love
because
Tomar. Yeah,
he told me on the interview that I did with him that because he's a multi instrumentalist, the different songs that he writes are on different instruments.
yeah,
Like if it's a funk tune, it tends to start out on a bass.
yeah, yeah. Nice. And it's weird, right? The different, like, the different influences. Like if you get on a piano, it makes you write a little different. If you
Right.
have a guitar, so you're writing, a little different. Like I started learning how to play piano during the quarantine, instead of like bitching about how much I hate this. I focused all my energy on to do something good, and
Right.
for myself and for others with the song. So I learned how to play piano, which was the one instrument I've always wanted to learn, but never could find time to, especially when I got here to Austin. I was gigging everywhere,
Right.
So I had this downtime. I'm like, I'm learning an instrument. So uh just it's so weird from like playing guitar and writing a lot of my songs on the guitar to writing songs on piano is like Tomar said, it's like night and day. You find yourself at almost a different songwriter. So
Right.
it's like a completely different flavor, which is super cool. But with Tomar and the FCs, that was like I think the last show we played was at Continental, and it was a double show
Uh-huh.
with Joe James and my band and Tomar and the FCs.
Right. I think
It
it
was
was.
that was a fun show. We had so much fun.
um, and so I know that songwriters are like mothers with their children. You never want to say you have a favorite,
Yeah, totally.
but do you have a favorite song that you've written?
Um, I I want to say the two singles that I'm going to be releasing in the summer are my favorite, and I
Oh,
think
interesting.
because they're so new to me. And like you said, it's hard to choose because they're all your babies.
Right.
You created them and you love them all, and they all mean something, and they're all a piece of your life and your story, um, and whatever you were going through at that time. So it's hard to say, but I would say if I had to choose, it would be the two brand new ones I've been working on, that I'll be releasing in the summer. I find that they're completely different, still have my vibe and my story and my soul in it. Um, but I wanted to change it up a little bit. I feel um, I never want to repeat myself, so I just did a record called Back Home, um, and released it during the lockdown, and it did extremely well, and I was so excited. And those songs were they were very soulful. They were more pop geared towards the
Uh-huh.
uh, pop genre, pop soul blues type of stuff like that. So I wanted to completely do the opposite this time around and do something that isn't so pop, that is more groove and R&B and soul based, as opposed to trying to write a catchy lyric for the radio to play.
Right.
Um, these songs, I'll say, are me and a lot of my buddies and people that have been working on them. They say these are the songs to get. These two songs are for folks to get really cozy to. So, and that's kind of the vibe of them. And I was like,
You
holy moly, that
counterpart
is
to Netflix and chill. Is that
that.
what
Yeah,
you're saying?
definitely. I think when we do PR, I'm gonna say you definitely want to put these on and Netflix and chill. Which is funny because I didn't think of them that way. I was just writing like I was I was at the time I was listening to the Fugees and D'Angelo and like all these kind of R&B and kind of hip hop type vibe, and I was like, man, that's what I was like ingesting, right?
Right.
And so as I started to write, I was like, ooh, I'm writing kind of that in that vibe, and I was like, I
Uh-huh.
like it, I dig it. And then I kind of challenged myself to not write a poppy hook, and so it came out that way, and I'm really happy with them. But yeah, one of my friends was like, these songs, I could see a lot of folks getting really cozy to. I was like, all right, that's a good thing. That's a good
It
thing.
is a good thing. There's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that at all.
heck no.
And so, what is your favorite song to play? Not necessarily yours, any yours or someone else's.
Sure. So I think I'll do like one of mine and then a cover that I do. So there's a song that's off my most recent release called Back Home. It's the title track. And I really love playing that song because I kind of relive the moment and the words of the song. And it kind of takes me back to that specific time of coming back home and being accepted and feeling like the hope after a trial and a storm that we went through with me and my wife because she battles with ulcerative colitis, and that was what the whole album was written for, was that struggle we were both going through together, mainly her, but I was with her during it. And so it takes me back to that time because Back Home was more of a light at the end of that dark tunnel a song, you know. And so every time I play that one, it's really, I almost feel a little like, because I break down and I start talking a little bit, like a little preachy during it, but in a very positive, like uplifting way.
Uh-huh.
And it's always a really beautiful moment during that specific song. So I'd say that one for mine, for an original. And then there's two of them that I really like to play. I do a cover of Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. And I do that acoustically and I kind of break it down. And that one's super fun to play. And then I do a medley of Imagine, Let It Be, and not Good Day Sunshine. It was another Beatles song that I kind of combined into one.
Mhm.
And I always love playing that song because that's, like I said, I'm a huge Beatles fan. So like playing that song is like, I love the Beatles, you know.
Yes, and we've just been having the anniversaries of the Beatles on Ed Sullivan Show,
Oh yeah.
and
It,
I was actually 13 and very ill with nephritis, which is a
oh wow.
kidney inflammation. And I was confined to my bed. The doctor said I couldn't do anything but wiggle my toes for a
Oh
month.
wow. Whoa.
And I got home from the hospital just in time to see the Beatles for the first time on Ed Sullivan on
That
February 9th, I think it was.
Let me tell you something. As a Beatles freak, I'm like just so envious to you right now.
Well, my best friend at the time, Linda Bell Welches, she came to my house and I had twin beds in my bedroom. And she was on one bed and I was, of course, stuck in the other one. And I had a little tiny portable television, and the two of us had it set up between the two beds so that we could watch the Beatles. And that's what we did for three
So
weeks.
cool. Oh my gosh. What I mean,
Screaming little teenagers.
a lot of us always talk, especially us like artists and musicians, songwriters, that there was that time and that era of like the 60s and 70s where like the music was just completely on fire, and it was like it was completely on point, and it was,
Yeah,
they did it right the first time they started it all. They like, it was just such magic. And I always hear like folks talk about living in that time because I was born in 88, you know. And so I'm like, god man, what I would give to like wear those bell bottoms and like, you know what I mean, and like watch Ed Sullivan
all
and the
that.
Beatles be on there. Like, geez, man, that was such a good time. And I find a lot of like, that's where I lean towards a lot for influence. And like, is because if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like they did it right the first time, you
Right.
know. And I feel like in today's um like music culture, it's like it's almost like they dumbed everything down, and to the sense of no one's being really creative. But I feel like we're except for the underground folks, right?
Uh-huh.
Like when you're, I feel like when at that time there was so much creativity at the top, at the when at the top of you know the pop charts, and that at like they were being super creative. It seems like that switched
Right.
around, and like all of that creative juice and people being extremely colorful and creative, that's underground now, and all the stuff that's they're just trying to push out to make a buck or whatever they're trying to do. That commercialized music of today, it's not the same. So it's like it's crazy to me that at one time, what was commercial music was this very amazing, thoughtful, creative, like magical music, in the
Right.
60s and 70s, and like that was at the top. That was the commercial stuff, which blows my mind. I'm like, I'm so envious of that. But I feel it's like there's a certain that's coming around full circle, like it's coming back, to
Mhm.
where people are starting to appreciate more the songs and the structure of the songs, as opposed to just having this one structure of a song and just riding that until the wheels fall off. It's like, man, no, be creative. Like we want to hear different, we want different flavors,
Yep.
and I feel like that's coming back around. I hope.
Well,
Either way, I'm gonna do what I do. Either way.
well, the aftermath of the Beatles was that everybody wanted to be the Beatles.
Right. Yeah.
And the aftermath of Jimi Hendrix was everybody wanted to be Jimi Hendrix.
Mhm.
The aftermath of Stevie Ray Vaughan was that everybody wanted to be Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Right.
And in some ways, it kills the original artist.
A
You know what
hundred
I mean? I
percent.
mean,
Yeah.
it, it kind of brings everything to a level of mediocrity
Mhm.
instead of elevating it. And so, what we see sometimes is that there are these pockets underground
Mhm.
that take those original influences and make something new of them instead of trying to reinvent the original.
100%.
And so that was one of our issues at the Continental Club after Stevie died. There was a period of time we didn't have any blues music.
Oh, really?
We had traditional,
Right.
mostly East Side artists like Grey Ghost and Irby Bowser and T.D. Bell and people like that. But we didn't have any new up and coming blues artists because every new blues artist that came or wanted to play wanted to try and reinvent Stevie Ray, and it
Yeah.
wasn't. It
That,
just wasn't right.
yeah, I agree. Like that's the thing. I mean, I understand if you want to tip your hat to him, but like he that's what he did. He was
Right.
original, and like that's what they did. They're original. Like every time I tell someone my biggest influence is the Beatles,
Hmm.
they're like, you don't even sound like the Beatles. And that's because like I I'm just myself, you know,
Right.
and I don't care to be like anyone else. I just want to make music that I want to hear, you know.
Exactly. You can't be
And
a
I think
carbon copy of anybody else. You have
no
to be
way.
authentically yourself.
Yeah, and that's what it's about. It's like in all aspects of life, it's just be you, because there's only one you,
Right.
and that's a beautiful thing. That's amazing. And that there's one, you know, Joe James, or there's one Diane, like there's just one,
Right.
right? And so it's like be you, and be comfortable with who you are. And it's a beautiful thing. You don't, you know, Steve Ray Vaughan was awesome, and we could all go, he was awesome, but I don't want to be Steve Ray Vaughan. I don't want to be the Beatles. Like I'm happy being Joe James. Like that's I get off being Joe James, you
Well,
know?
and that's really the point is to assimilate all of that, but
Mhm.
make it your own sound by building from that platform.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I still see it today. Like there's still a few uh hanger-ons with the Stevie thing. And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
guys, he already did it, and he did it really good.
Right.
So he's
But
like,
you need
every,
improvement.
no, he did it. It's already like we could all just go back and watch and listen to his stuff if we want the real thing.
Yep. I was always pleased that with Gary Clark Jr. that he
Oh, I love
actually
Gary.
came from an acoustic Delta blues and South Texas blues rather than coming from a Jimi Hendrix or a Stevie Ray. You could
Yeah.
hear those influences in him,
Hmm.
but he was actually more influenced by like Son House or, somebody like that than he was
Yeah.
T-Bone Walker. I mean, he got it.
Yeah, man. He's one of the ones that, I mean, I'm proud to say that you know, he's from Austin. To see like him carrying that flag,
Yeah.
is so wonderful. And I'm friends with some of his bandmates, with John Dees,
Uh-huh.
the keyboard player, good friend of mine. I love that guy. Like, yeah, he's got it. I mean, he's got something new. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
he has those influences, but Gary sounds like Gary,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, which
Exactly.
is amazing. It's awesome, and he has such a cool sound,
Hmm.
and such a cool look, and he's got the
Hmm.
package, man. He's great.
Right.
Love Gary.
And just like you, he's not afraid to be himself.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it's all about. And that's the thing, I find myself like preaching a lot on stage. And like I said, in every aspect of life, not just as a musician, because I think with musicians and like artists and even actors, people start to look at them as something other than like humans, like they're dehumanized. But it's
Right.
like we're just being ourselves. Like really, we're kind of weird. You know what I mean? Like we're weird
Oh, I know
characters.
what you mean.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And so it's like we're odd, but people are attracted to that oddness because the way we dress, we like to express ourselves in a certain way. Like, I play a pink guitar or whatever, like, and people are attracted to that. But it's like, that's us just being our weird selves, and that's the thing I try to preach is just be exactly who you are. Dress how you want to dress. If you want to be an actor, if you want to be whatever, like just be you. That's the best thing, is like, because it makes the world so much more beautiful and so much more colorful,
Right.
which is awesome to see people just be their authentic selves.
Lori, would you please turn off your video? I don't know if she hears me. Uh-uh. Let me see. I think if I stop video. Oh, there she goes. Okay. Um, so one of the things I like to ask is if there is any song that you could have written, what would it be?
Mm, man, how much time do you have? I have so many songs.
We got about half an hour left, so go for it.
If I had to pick one song, I would have to say Imagine. I have Imagine tattooed right here.
Ah,
I'm a huge John Lennon, like he was my favorite Beatle. I
uh-huh.
think he was the most authentic Beatle. He just really didn't give a shit what anyone thought,
Right.
and like he was John Lennon. And I loved his message of that hope and you know and peace in the world and bringing everyone together. And that's what Imagine's about. I know there's a lot of people that get shut off at the very beginning of Imagine, where it says Imagine there's no heaven, and then everyone who likes to think in kind of a little box goes, oh, no, that's it, we're
Right.
shutting the song off, this is a bad song. It's like, no, but it's not. He's not saying there's not a heaven. He's not saying there's not a hell. He's not saying any of those things. He was saying, imagine there wasn't this thing called heaven, or there wasn't war, or there wasn't like organized religion, and we weren't fighting over all these things.
Mhm.
Imagine a world that was just together as one, not worrying about, if you're this or if you're that, or if you believe this way, or if you follow that guy or gal or whatever. And it's like, imagine if we didn't, no possessions, no religion, no wars. Like, imagine a world of that, and
Mhm.
how peaceful and respectable we would be towards each other. You
Right.
know, if I didn't look at you because you weren't this way, or you didn't believe this way, like I just looked at you for you,
Mhm.
and just who you are a person. I didn't dehumanize you because of your political or religious beliefs. And so I love that song because that's the thing I always go back to in preaching and in my, in my sets and my songs. And like, that's the thing that I believe in with my whole heart. So I would have to say Imagine. Imagine's the thing.
That's an excellent choice.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love that song.
And so let's talk about your time with The Voice. That was just a little over a year ago, wasn't it? It was in,
Yeah, that was in 2019. Um, it was a fun time. I can honestly say I had a good time. It was a little strange for me, um, only because it's a it's a reality TV show. Like, so you can't chalk it up to be like, oh, this is all about the music. This is all about the artist. I'm just not going to be, like I said, I'm authentic and I'm my real self. So I'm not going to pretend that that's what that show's about. It's a TV show, a reality TV show that wants ratings. So
right.
I understand that. But it was cool to be a part of a production like that, and it was cool to prepare for it as well. It completely took me out of my comfort zone, which I like. I like to kind of get out of that with songwriting, with performing and all of that stuff. I like to get out of my comfort zone, and so that completely took me out of my comfort zone. Because I'm like, you know, wait a minute, I played like hundreds of thousands of gigs, and like now I'm an equal as someone who just sings in the shower. And so it was like, it was very weird in that sense. But I mean, it was a fun experience, and I'm glad I did it, because I think, no, I know um it made me appreciate Austin and the Austin community, and like, and I was just longing to get back home and to perform. Like, I was like, I was on this big production stage and had cameras all on my face and people dressing me and putting my makeup on. But man, I was like, it's funny. I was in that whole thing, which a lot of people love and dream of. And I was like, I just can't wait to get back to like Austin and play at the Continental or something. I'm like, I can't, it's just not real to me. I just like,
Right.
you know, but it was fun, and it was a huge learning curve. It was a great experience. I made a lot of friends and connections from it as well. But it's something that I I definitely wouldn't do again, but
Mhm.
I'm glad I did it.
And you did get very positive reinforcement from the judges.
Yeah, which is cool. I mean, it didn't show a lot of what they actually said, because like I said, it's a TV show, so they chop a lot of stuff up. Because I was up there for a lot longer, um, playing performing the song, and a lot longer with them talking to me.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, they were really kind, and I mean, I think I would have made a team, but a lot of the teams are filled up, and I think that's one of the things they didn't show on The Voice, was them saying like, if my teams weren't filled up, I totally would have picked you, or I got one more spot. I already got a guy that kind of plays music similar to you, so I'm looking for someone that plays like this, or that does country, or
Uh-huh.
something like that. So I would have but I'm so glad I didn't go further. And I know that's weird to say, but I got to release an amazing album that I don't think I would have been able to release if I was still on The Voice. And I had, even though we were in lockdown and all that, I had such an amazing year and made huge connections with people in our community, from that. And I think if I made it to a high level of The Voice, I probably just would have only had a lot of follows on Instagram, you
Right.
know, as opposed to actual connections with the community, and with I don't like calling people fans, with supporters, like real genuine supporters of me, not of the show.
Right.
And so I'm
But
glad I did it, but glad I didn't make it that far.
if you had had the choice, What judge would you have preferred to be your mentor?
Man, I think it would be a toss up between J- I want to say John Legend because that's more of my wheelhouse, right?
Right.
But for some reason, I want to say Blake or Kelly
Oh,
because
interesting.
I feel like my energy wise and vibe wise, I would receive like what they had to offer
Hmm.
more, and I feel like our um as like a human to human, our vibes would connect a little more.
Right. I would have
Like
loved to have seen you with Kelly.
I would have, yeah, I think we would have had a lot of fun,
Mm.
and I think that would have been great, the camaraderie between because their personalities I vibe with. I
Uh,
love John, but he just seems like really like straight laced and like just I feel like I would need someone to, if I was gonna be coached by someone, it would have to be someone that's gonna be on that kind of fun and happy and vibe that I have. So
Kelly's a Texas girl, for God's sake.
right, and bam, there you go. So I would say either those two would be my choice.
Mhm. And so now you've got some other new thing coming up. I just saw some kind of a singing competition, or tell
Oh yeah,
me.
yeah. So I'm gonna be a speaker actually. I'm not gonna be in a competition. So tomorrow, my friend Brianna, who's my artist consultant, she's from Dallas. She is hosting a summit where there's a lot of past contestants, people that have been on a reality TV show, and they kind of share their wisdom and things that they've learned while going through the process. Because what a lot of not people don't understand is that like you you see that one snippet of this, like 1 minute of what we did,
Right.
but it's a whole 2 months of what we did. So there's a lot of like preparing, and there's mental preparing and vocally, and your song and your song choice,
Mhm.
and even from the very beginning of the casting, because like I said, it's a show, so they're casting
Right.
you know people, uh and so to prepare for that, there's a process to prepare for that. There's a process after you get past that to prepare for um having an audition for the producers.
Uh-huh.
And so there's a different rounds you go through before you get on that stage. So
Mhm.
in reality, I passed three like rounds
Mm.
of these auditions,
Right.
but just the one that aired on TV, the one that was, like filmed, that's the one I didn't go through. And it's so many reasons of why that could have happened.
Mhm.
Like I said, they didn't have enough room on their team. But yeah, so what this is just talking to people that have went through and have been through the reality TV show Tornado, and like they're if anyone's wanting to do it, we're giving them advice and what our takeaway from the show, and hopefully if they go on it, they'll be prepared and know what to expect while on those TV shows.
And there have been a lot of contestants from Texas that have
Yeah, they
been
have.
on these singing competitions, particularly.
Yeah, there have been quite a few, and because Texas has, especially Austin, has so much talent in it,
Right.
and which I love. It's always so great. And it's so crazy to have such talented friends. Like we talked about Tomar, and like I'm sure he thinks the same of me, but I like when I see him and his band, um and people like Gary and the Black Pumas, and
Mhm.
you just have so much talent here in Austin. The Reverend Few, my friends in the Reverend Few, and you have like all these fantastic musicians. Yeah, of course. I think that those casting agents have a heyday in Texas because and especially in Austin, like man, we got lots to pick from.
It's an embarrassment of riches.
It is, yeah, it is. And I miss going to popping my head in the shows, stopping by, the Continental, not only to play, but to stop in on a Monday night to see my friends, the Peterson brothers or
Right.
something. You know, it's like I'm there's so much talent, and it's not just like, oh, because I love my city. It's like, no, these people are badass. Like all like these folks are great, and to be like in that community and on that level with all of them, you know, sometimes we all have to kind of give ourselves a pat on the back, like, good job, Joe. Like, great for hanging with these dudes, you know, and these ladies. Like, good job, man. Cause you know, and they should do the same because like we're all high level musicians, a lot of us here. And like, you know, and it's just it's such an honor to be a part of the whole thing. But yeah, those casting agents they have it made when they come to Austin.
Definitely.
I can tell you a little story about my very first audition. So I auditioned twice for The Voice. So I'll be quick with this one. But they so I got they reached out to me for a private audition. Man, it was about maybe 6 years ago. And I really didn't know. I wasn't really comfortable with myself as an artist, as a person. I was really still trying to figure stuff out. I just moved up north to Temple, Texas, like yeah, Temple Belton area. It's way up there. It's you know by Waco, and so I moved up there, and they reached out to me, and I didn't really do a lot of live playing until I got to Austin, to Texas. I just did a lot of producing and songwriting and session stuff in LA. Um, but when I got here, I really dove into the live scene. So I really didn't know who I was as an artist because I really wasn't pursuing like the Joe James brand, you know.
Right.
It was just like they reached out to me. I had a YouTube video or something. They reached out to me. So I auditioned and I picked like songs that were totally not me that I really didn't like, but I was like, maybe they'll like it, you know? And so I wore a shirt that I got at Cracker Barrel, and like I had, you know, some pants that were way too big for me on. I just walked in like I, you know, got out of bed, you know, and went in there and sang these songs. And obviously they were like, sorry guys, see you later. And so I was like, man, what did I do wrong? But anyway, I joined this band like almost a few months after, and I hit the road and like grew my stage legs and figured out what people liked and what I like to play and how I like to dress, and started not giving a crap about who, you know, who thought I looked silly with a hat or some necklaces on. I was like, I like this, so I'm just putting it on. Screw you, you know. And by the time, you know, 2019 comes around, I knew who I was. We were playing at Continental. I'm like, I'm Joe James, man. I know who I am. Like, I don't care if you like me or not. Like, I'm here to preach love and acceptance and love who you are, and this is who I am, you know. And so I get on that stage with my hat, my, you know, and I played a show. I think I played the Continental the day before that casting audition, and I was tired. And so I showed up with like sunglasses on. I think I was chewing gum. I had my hat on. I was dressed super cool. I walk in and they're like, "Hey, Joe James," you know, and I was like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" And I'm tired. I had coffee. And like, I really didn't care if I made it or not because I was like, I love Austin. Like, these people are just trying to make a show. They don't care who I am. I'm about the community that actually accepts me for me and loves me. But anyway, they obviously love that aspect of me. Just like, I'm who I am. If you don't like me, I'm just gonna go get some cilantro after this. I don't care. You know, I'm gonna go Torchy's. Peace. but they but yeah, they loved it, and I was like, oh man. So I made it. And they're like, yeah. So you're going, you know, you're gonna be going to LA, and we're gonna fly you out there, and you're gonna do the producers audition. I was like, dang, but I have a few gigs. I'm like, which is funny. My mindset was like, you know, I built something, so it was almost like it was taken away from that, you know.
Right.
So I was really authentic there. And they were like, "Can you take your glasses off and can you spit your gum out?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, sorry." It was funny.
So going forward, Joe, what, and you are um doing some live gigs now,
Yeah, a few here and there that
which
are safe, and there's a lot of the places we make sure you got to wear your mask. There's social distancing. I'm at Geraldine's every Thursday for the Birds, Bubbles, and Blues, which is an inside thing, but they have everybody scattered, um, sanitize before you come in, have to wear your mask. So uh, that was the only reason I took that gig, was because they were being super safe. But yeah, so I have that one every Thursday, and then I have a few here and there scattered. But I've been doing a lot of like online um, kind of Zoom events and
right.
just playing from the comfort of my home, which is nice. You know,
Yeah.
I film from here up, and I get to wear my sweatpants, like, you know what I mean. So it's like it's really nice that I don't get, but I do miss my other pants, my
I
deck.
always loved your sessions on the stairway.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Those were always so cool.
I got to start doing those again. I have the time.
Yeah, exactly. And just for the record, let me say I am totally against the live shows right now. Totally 100% against them.
Yeah,
And that is why I do not promote your shows at Geraldine's, and I apologize for that.
I
Because
totally
under
understand.
any other circumstances, you know I would be sharing that.
Oh,
But
I know.
I don't, and I want you to know that that's the reason why, is because I just cannot support live shows right now. I think
I
it's too
totally get it.
dangerous when you have people and you have alcohol,
Right.
and that's it. It's too dangerous.
I totally get it.
But I also certainly understand that people are in a position right now that in order to keep their home, in
Hmm.
order to put food on the table, they have to do something. And
Yeah, because for me, this is like literally, I don't, I don't have a day job. Like this is
right,
it. This
yeah,
is my, like you said, this is how I provide, and this is how I put food on my table and pay my mortgage and all that stuff. So yeah, it's hard to do. Like I would rather, be staying at home. Well, I would rather be playing, but in a safe environment. But we're backed up in a weird position.
of course. And I totally get it. And I have so much empathy for those that are forced into that decision, because it's got to be a
Totally.
tough decision to make.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And, as we said at the very top of the show, there is hope now with vaccines rolling out. It does seem like there will never be an end to COVID-19, but there will be a place of more normalcy with it.
Sure. Yeah. I agree with
It
that.
is
Yeah, because
exactly
it's
like the
never gonna go
flu.
away.
Well, in one way, it is exactly like the flu, in that those of us of a certain age, me, uh, have to get a flu shot every year because we're
Right.
exposed to people, and so for safety's sake, we get the flu shot. Well,
Yeah.
the COVID-19 vaccinations are going to turn out to be the same thing, where it's going to be
Yeah.
something where you just need to get the shot, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's gonna go away. I mean, it's gonna be something to where, you know, like the flu shot you have to get, and you also have to get the COVID-19 shot as well.
Right.
I think that's gonna be a thing, and hopefully people are responsible and they get those, you
Yeah,
know, and in that way it helps that, you know, flatten that curve.
it does
Which I
seem that with the number of shots that have already been given, that there is a decrease in deaths and hospitalizations.
Yeah,
So it seems to be already starting to work.
which yeah, that's awesome. That's a light at the end of what has been a long dark tunnel,
Yeah, it is.
is that these vaccines are rolling around,
Hmm.
and people are able to get them,
Yeah,
and hopefully when it I'm just waiting for the 75% mark of people to really actually like kind of celebrate,
right.
you know.
Well, I know
Um,
Austin is getting, I can't even remember now how many million it was. It was like I don't know how many million doses it was getting anyways, or
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm just waiting for my second one now. I
Oh,
got
really?
the first one, waiting for the second one. Um,
Nice.
so that's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've all survived the snowpocalypse of 2021.
Snowmageddon.
The
Good
Continental
Lord.
didn't survive quite as well as we had hoped.
Oh no.
A pipe in the tattoo shop over our office, uh,
Yeah,
pipes burst, and our office was under 3 feet of
I
water.
saw that. Yeah. Dang it.
And Steve and Celeste were able to get in there and salvage a lot, but there were a lot of things that were just lost. They were just saturated and covered with mud, and
Jeez.
it just, oh god, I was so glad I didn't have to do that. I don't envy
Yeah.
them having to be in there doing that, but all in all, it could have been much worse. There was nothing
Yeah.
inside the club, it was all in the office. And so
Man, what a crazy time. We just keep having hit after hit, but I think it's just making all of us, that much more stronger. And I hope that through all of this, like, we learn to not dehumanize folks, that we're all in this together. We're all dealing with all this bullshit together, It's like, um, let's just be in it together. Learn to respect each other, and learn to be respectful and to understanding, because I think a lot of folks, um, kind of chase after things that coincide with what they believe and how they think, but it's like, but people are different, and that's the beautiful thing, that we have all these different people, and I
exactly.
couldn't imagine a world where we were all the same and we're all robots. It's like people are all different. Like, hopefully we come out of this and realize, yeah, like some I've been acting like an asshole to these people, and I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna do something good. I'm gonna be good to these
Mhm.
people. I'm gonna start listening instead of,
Right.
talking over folks, and learn from these people, and why they may think the way they do. And so I hopefully we come out of all this stuff. I know I've become more centered in more appreciative, in humanity and life and nature and all of these things from the lockdown, and from last week.
Right.
Just we have our friends, Krista and Mal, who I call, like, they're the best lesbian couple in the world. They're our best friends, man, and they took us in because everything shut out off for us, like water,
Uh-huh.
and they've always done that for us. And so it just to see how people, like, I've come to the realization that, like, people are beautiful. It's just sometimes some folks, the way they grew up or whatever, they were taught to be that way. And it's for us to kind of not hate but educate,
Right.
and educate them on, like, you know there's all different colors, there's all different religions, that people love who they love. Like, just understand that, like, this it's a beautiful world. Just get out of your box and look at the beautiful world around you, and stop judging.
Well,
And I hope,
pastors seem to bring out the best in people.
yeah,
They
and like,
really
people
do.
start helping people, and like, that's what I saw, is like, folks just start helping. They're helping others,
Right. It was
and like,
overwhelming, the amount
and I know,
of
yeah.
volunteerism and care.
And it
That,
was at that point where it's like, I don't care who you are, what you think, what you believe,
uh,
or who you love. Like, it was humanity. Like,
right.
it was just humans, like, you know, shedding that love and light and lending a helping hand. I hope, like, we start that starts to be the the thing, the popular thing is to just open your mind and listen and understand, people. And it was great to see that during that snowstorm, like, people helping others, and like everyone together, and like, it was cool to see that.
Yeah, I would love to see more gentleness come
Oh
back
yeah,
into popularity.
yeah, 100%. That's what the world needs, you know. I mean, obviously it hadn't worked very well in the past. Like what we're doing is, you know, the past has shown screwed up as people, you know. And so it's like it's time for that change. Like, you know, it's like we need to make America and the world great from here on out, you know. Not to get political, but you know, great again is not the it's not the saying.
Right. Because great wasn't great for everybody.
No, yeah, it was great for you maybe, but like it was not good for others.
Right.
But yeah, so I'm hopeful for a world like John Lennon said, going back to that thing. It's like if we could all just, you know, imagine and then put into action a world where that isn't the thing that drives us. What drives us is love for humanity and for people, you know.
Right.
I think someone said like I love humanity, but it's people that I just can't stand, you know. And so I kind of in that same boat, you know. It's like I love the concept of humans and humanity and different ethnicities and cultures and beliefs, but just the people in there, they screw it up every time, you know. It's like,
Well,
come
I'm
on, guys.
Aquarian, and so I often have described my sign as I want to feed the world. I just don't want to feed them at my table.
Yeah.
Because that's
Right.
the total Aquarian thing. You know, you want to do everything from a distance.
Yeah, but it's like, man, I think we're heading that towards that. And like I said, I think a lot of people could look at the lockdown and what we went through as, oh man, what's such a tragedy and whatever. But to me, I think it was just the universe saying, you know, you guys got to get your shit together, and here's some of the things y'all need to work out, you
Right.
know. And those things came about, you know,
Yeah.
and they came to the forefront, and they were a lot of people were faced, you know, having to face that reality, you know.
Mhm.
And so I think it was a great thing. I think hopefully from here on out we got a lot of work to do, but
Right.
you know, hopefully we keep working towards it.
Yeah, Mother Nature's definitely been fighting back, you know.
Yeah, she's like, man, I'm gonna lay a snowstorm on you guys
Yeah.
in Texas.
Yeah. It was
It's
colder
like,
here than it was in Buffalo, New York.
yeah, what in the heck's up with that? You know,
I didn't leave New York to come down here for this. I could have stayed up
jeez.
there.
Yeah, me and my wife talk about like eventually when we're older, like moving to Connecticut, and like I'm kind of setting that on the back burner for a minute. I'm like, I don't even want to think about moving to Connecticut right now. Not a chance, man.
Well, Joe, it's sure been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
We are accepting tips for Joe can be made on Venmo at Joe James Music, and that is JoJamesMusic. And you can also, if you'd like to support the Continental Club, Seaboys, and Continental Gallery employees, we do have a tip jar on our website at continentalclub.com/closed. That's the page that gives you all the information about when we reopen and all of that. And if you would like to support this show, because I do have to pay for the pro Zoom, it's also Venmo, and that is D Scott 1141. And thank you, and help Joe out, man, because he just lost some good gigs last week while we were suffering in that storm.
Yeah, and there could have been gigs that were I was just gonna be sitting at home in my sweatpants, you know, but I didn't have any internet.
Exactly.
They're making good money sitting at home. That was going to be really cool.
Right.
Um, but yeah, this is it's all a learning thing. It's what you make of it, right?
Right.
And I always try to learn from everything and take
Well, there's
away
always a lesson in everything.
always a lesson in
Yeah.
everything. Right. The lesson for me is I'm probably not going to move to Connecticut. You
The
know,
lesson for
I'm
me
just
is
not.
don't be afraid to ask my neighbors for help.
I know, right? But thank you so much, Diane. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and I miss our conversations and buying your pick earrings, in the back of the Continental Club. Uh, I'm
We'll
praying
be
and I'm
back.
hoping that we'll be there again soon.
Right. Me too. And until then, my love to Chelsea, and you take care of yourself, Joe. And y'all, thanks for joining us. And this video will be uploaded to the Facebook pages for the Continental Club, the Gallery, and Sea Boys, as well as to our Continental Club YouTube channel, which is Continental Club ATX. And you can look on that for Continental Confidential Live, and that's where all of these interviews are located.
Sweet.
And I'll be back next week. And I honestly don't have March confirmed yet, except for the 24th. I have Bonnie Whitmore, who was supposed to be on today, but ended up moving to the 24th of March. So join me next week with whoever it is. And until then, y'all take care. Bye, Joe. Bye, y'all.
Bye.